How do you keep your heart open when you are overcoming heartache? How do you not close off your heart energy and not build a huge wall around you when you've gone through a horrible breakup or horrible experience that just you're like, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to feel any of those feelings anymore, so I'm closing myself off. And you feel like you're putting this protective shield around you, this giant wall that you're building, and maybe if I block anyone from entering and I'm not vulnerable from anyone, I won't get hurt anymore. But actually what that does is it attracts the wrong people, because you're telling the universe that you're only going to get hurt in a relationship. So you put the block up, and what that does is that sends out the energy of the ones that are like, aha, let's just mess around or play with this person's heart or their mind or their emotions. So when you practice a place of coming into vulnerability, and you can be vulnerable while still having healthy boundaries. True vulnerability is this. True empowered vulnerability is this, and I'm about to tell it to you, so 1 second. True empowered vulnerability is when you know that you can allow yourself to be open, and that whatever that other person says or does, it's not to be taken personally, because everything that they do is a reflection of themselves. So if someone is projecting pain and hurt and anger and hate, it's because they feel that towards themselves so much. It's painful for them to feel that, and they feel that the only way that they can have some sort of a relief is to project it onto you. You don't have to take that, so you can of course have a boundary where you're not going to be engaging with that person anymore, but maybe you're in a long-term relationship with this person, and everybody's human, and sometimes we have moments where we project our own pain on our partners. If you can stay in a place where you recognize that the pain that they're projecting is not yours to hold, and it's their pain, and they're trying to shove it onto you because it's so painful for them, that can allow you to stay in a neutral position. When you're in a neutral position, you are in your power. You're not feeding energy into it. You're not trying to heal them or save them or go into codependency, and you're not putting a huge block up where you're blocking the flow of love. You're allowing them space to hold that energy of they're in that space, but it doesn't mean that that's you. It doesn't mean it's a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of them. Part 2 of how do you not close off your heart? How do you stay in that vulnerability? And then if you watched part 1, I talked about how it's important to stay in that neutral energy. Now, some people think that being in neutral energy means that, oh, you're not having any compassion for this person or no empathy, and if that's your partner, how can you be so cold? No, there's a difference between being cold and closed off, which is the opposite of vulnerability, or being neutral, which means you're holding a space. You're allowing your partner to have that experience of whatever it is that they're doing in that moment where they're being human, and you're not taking it upon yourself that okay, it's my job to own this energy or to take ownership of that pain also, because that's codependency too. So a lot of people who are empathic, and even people who start on a healing journey or doing work as a healer, they feel like the only way that they can relieve somebody's suffering is if they take that suffering on as their own, and that's the opposite, because then what you have is just two miserable people. So that's not what you want to do. That's not what being vulnerable is. Being vulnerable means open. That's all it means. You're being open. But you can be selective in that openness. You can be neutral, which means you're not closed off and you're not taking on something that isn't yours. So if you're wanting to empower your partner in healing, understand that they're capable of doing that. You trust in their ability to heal themselves and to work on themselves and to get through whatever it is that they're getting through. But the codependency part starts when you feel like, oh, I need to save them. I need to heal them. I need to do this. Now that, when you're in a relationship, that's the opposite, because that puts you as a woman in mothering energy, and that kills the romantic spark. And a man, especially if he's not in his empowered energy, will actually take that feeling as like a threat. And he will do he could do two things. One, he could move into that place of, okay, now you have to take care of me, and it becomes this horrible codependent dynamic, and then the spark is just gone, and then you start to resent one another. Or when that mothering, he just can't handle it, and he retreats and goes in the opposite direction. So the power of the feminine energy is that vulnerability of being and allowing. So you're allowing your partner to move through these emotions.